Good evening, students. So we are meeting after a long break because of a lot of conferences in between and holidays. So we couldn't meet. Uh, so we're meeting after a long duration. So what we had covered till now uh, were the basic small chapters, which are building blocks for the main chapters. So main chapter, which is the input tax credit, which we will discuss today, is a very important and predominant topic because for your exams and after your exams, for both the purposes, input tax credit is very important. So to understand the input tax credit, the basic chapters were required. So that's the reason we took quite number of sessions to understand the basics, like what is supply, what is charge, where is the place of supply, because place of supply, we know that where the place of supply is there you will charge the GST. So the IGST, the ITC, the input tax credit will go to that place. That's why those chapters were very important before we get into the input tax credit chapter. Okay. The input tax credit is understood as the backbone of the GST model itself, because we have seen the cascading effect in the first session. We have seen tax on tax. To get away with all of that, we have the input tax credit. Okay, so the input tax credit gives the credit to anybody. Okay, if you're a trader, you're a manufacturer, you're a service provider, all of them will get the input tax credit, irrespective of from whom they buy. What used to happen pre-GST was a manufacturer wouldn't get any credit of the VAT, and a service provider, he would also not get any credit of VAT because VAT was on goods and it was a state levy. So service providers never used to get the credit. And the corollary also used to happen where a VAT dealer is there. If he's procuring any services, he never used to get the credit. So there were so much of implications on costing that the cost of the services is definitely there, but the tax on those services also used to become a cost. That is the reason all of that shortcomings in the previous laws has been removed and input tax credit has been introduced in the GST, जहां पे आपको जो भी आप परचेज करो, जो भी आप सर्विस रिसीव करो, सबका क्रेडिट मिलेगा. सो यू विल गेट क्रेडिट ऑफ एवरीथिंग व्हाट यू प्रोक्योर, irrespective of which category of person you are. If you are a service provider, you will still get input tax credit on your goods also. Okay, so that is the background of input tax credit. Good evening, students, again, who have just joined in now. We will discuss today input tax credit. So I was just setting up why input tax credit. Why is it important that input tax credit is there in the GST system? Okay. So what is ITC? To understand simply what is a input tax credit is when I make sales, okay, I charge tax. This is called as output GST because there's so much of tax, this tax, output tax, input tax. So we need to, it is all GST itself, but we need to have a proper nomenclature for that, right? That's why the definition Section 2 of the CGST Act gives clear-cut meaning of what is output GST, what is input GST. So we need to understand this. The tax on our sales of goods or supply of goods or supply of services, both, whatever is your outward, it is called as output GST. Okay. Then the tax what I pay on my purchases, the tax what I pay on my expenses, the tax, all of this is input tax credit. It's called as input GST or input tax credit. ITC stands for input tax credit. It includes the tax on purchases. It includes the tax on expenses. It also includes the tax on any capital assets I procure. Okay, all of this is my input tax credit. All of this can be reduced from my output GST, and balance is the GST payable. Okay, output GST minus input GST is our GST payable. Now, sometimes it happens that my input GST or ITC, I've procured more than my output GST, then it will give you a negative value. So that will be called as a GST credit, which means that much credit you have, which you can use it for your future years. Okay, you can use your credit for the future liability. Is there any time limit to claim the ITC? There is a time limit to claim the ITC. But once you claim the ITC, you can utilize for how many ever years you have. Okay. So is there a time limit once you claim the input tax credit? Once you claim it, then you can utilize for any amount of years, but you should claim it on a timely basis. That is what we will read in this chapter. What is the time limit within which I can claim the ITC? Once you claim, then it is with you. अगर आप आईटीसी का बेनिफिट लेना चाहते हो, तब आपको आईटीसी एक टाइम लिमिट दिया गया है, उस टाइम लिमिट के अंदर आपको क्लेम कर देना चाहिए. अगर आप उस टाइम पे क्लेम कर देते हो, तो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अवेलिंग ऑफ आईटीसी. अगर आपने जीएसटी टाइमली अवेल कर दिया, तो आप उसको यूटिलाइज कभी भी कर सकते हो. लेकिन अगर आप अवेल ही लेट करोगे, तो फिर यूटिलाइज नहीं हो पाएगा. आपको टाइमली अवेल करना है. ठीक है, वो सेक्शन 16 में बताता है कि कब तक मैं अवेल कर सकता हूँ, वो हम पढ़ेंगे. बट अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस हियर. अवेलिंग एंड यूटिलाइजेशन में डिफरेंस है. आप अवेल कब कर सकते हो? जब वो टाइम लिमिट के है, उस टाइम लिमिट के अंदर अवेल कर सकते हो. यूटिलाइज आप कभी भी कर सकते हो. ठीक है, एक एग्जाम्पल के थ्रू समझेंगे इसको. मैं टैक्स पेड ऑन परचेज में तीन चीजें खरीदता हूँ मेरे परचेज करने के लिए. एक्स के ऊपर मेरा इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट है 100 रुपीज, वाई के ऊपर है 120 और जेड के ऊपर है 80 रुपीज. तो ये क्या हो गया? ये मेरे इनपुट हो गए. ऑल ऑफ दिस इनपुट्स, व्हाट इज द tax on I pay on my purchases. Okay, so if this is say of 1,000 rupees, thousand no 2,000 rupees, for example, on that the supplier is charged 100 rupees, then this 100 is my ITC, not the value of the goods, because the value of the goods is your purchase cost itself. What is the tax is charging? That is your input tax credit. So the vendor, I have purchased X from one vendor. He is charged tax of 100 rupees. That 100 is my credit. 120, another vendor is charged, and the third vendor is charged 80 rupees. So how much is my input tax credit? My input tax credit is 100 plus 120 plus 80, which is 300 rupees. So 300 is my input tax credit. I use all of these raw materials to manufacture a product, and I charge output when I sell this product. So that output is the tax on output. Now, how much should I pay to the government? 450 I've collected from my customer that I have to pay. But I will tell to the government, I have already paid taxes to you. How? When I purchased from my vendors, I have paid taxes to them and they will pay taxes to you. So I will reduce that. So you will collect from your customer 450 rupees, but you will pay to the government 450 minus this ITC. So 450 minus ITC of 300 is the 150 which you will pay to the government. Okay, this is the amount which gets deposited to the government's account. Clear? That is how output tax minus input tax works. Okay, this were the shortcomings under GST. Now it is not there. ITC various features are there. So this we have already discussed. Now, let us understand what input and input services I can avail. Okay. Now, all inputs can I avail? Do you think, before getting into the slide, can I claim any and all kinds of inputs? Or do you think there should be some restrictions? Or in your awareness, is there any restrictions on input tax credit? So you're saying all input tax credit can be availed. What about others? You are saying yes, all input tax credit can be availed. Correct. There is a concept of block credits also. Yes. So you are aware of it. Very nice. Correct. Block credits is one restriction. But apart from that, there are other restrictions also. Why the government is giving you the credit benefit? With the hope that you will utilize this credit for making a outward supply. Okay. Input tax credit on car purchase is blocked. Yes, that is one of the block credits. So similar to car, Sumit, there are other expenses and other category of goods also which you purchase, you will not get the credit. They are all put together called as block credit. Before getting into the block credit, there is a threshold. At the threshold itself or at the entry of before getting into the block credit, there is something called as a credit which should be used for business. If you do not use the credit for business, if you are using for personal purposes, that much of credit will not be available. Secondly, if there is any credit which you are using for making or supplying any exempt supply के ऊपर government is not getting any taxes, right? So on that also ITC you will get proportionate. You will not get the full credit. So these are the things wherein credit will not be available. That's why this next slide gives you what is the credit which can be availed and which cannot be availed. Any input and input services which is used for business purposes. Is it used for business purposes? Yes. Then full credit will be available. Is it not used for business purposes? The two things can happen. It is used for business purposes, then you will get the full credit. If you don't use for business purposes, you don't get the credit, right? The third one, I'll come back. Again, is it used for taxable supplies? Yes, I will give you the credit. Is it used for taxable supplies? And you say, no, it is not used for taxable supplies. It is used for exempt supplies. Then you will not get the credit. Then third category in both of them is when it is used commonly for business and non-business. So you have a setup wherein you are selling shirts also and you are selling agriculture products also. Agriculture products is exempted and shirts business is taxable. Now you will have common inputs like some fabric. When you purchase, you will manufacture shirt that will be falling under the first category. You will get full credit of it. But when you purchase anything related to this agriculture, it is not used for taxable supplies. That credit you will not get. But you have some common facilities, some common expenses which are using both for taxable and exempt. That is called as common expenses. So such expenses which is used for commonly for taxable and exempt, similarly for business and non-business which you purchase commonly, then you will get only proportionate credit. How much? How much to the extent of basis of ratio of turnover attributable to common credit. So you will see what is the ratio of the credit which you are using for taxable service, that much only you will claim. What is used for non-taxable service, you cannot claim. Okay. So that is the whole scenario of input tax credit. If you're using for taxable purpose, if you're using for business purpose, claim it fully. If you're using for non-taxable purpose and for non-business purpose, don't claim the credit. And credits which are commonly used for both taxable and non-taxable, claim only what is related to taxable. And credits which are using for business and non-business purposes, claim only that credit which is used for business purposes. Simple. Now the important definitions, this is okay. We can learn this, nothing much to be discussed here. One thing which you have to learn is zero rated supply. Now, when I say exempted, okay, If it is exempted, we can't claim the credit. But when we do zero rated supply, what is zero rated supply? Firstly, let us understand what is a zero rated supply. Zero rated supply means any of the following supplies of goods or services, namely export of goods or export of services, or supply of goods or services to a SEZ developer or a SEZ unit. Okay. So when I do some kind of exporting, when I send some goods outside India, when I provide services outside India, these are export, and export is categorized as zero rated. And even when I supply to a SEZ unit, supply of goods or supply of services, then also it's a zero rated transaction. So the benefit of zero rated transaction is even though you are not paying tax on it, the input credit reversal, what I said, that will work only for exempt services. For zero rated supply, you don't have to reverse. That is the advantage of a zero rated supply. जब भी आप zero rated supply करते हो, तब आप output तो pay नहीं करते हो, तो उसको क्या मैं एग्जेम्प्ट में इंक्लूड करूंगा? नहीं। अगर एग्जेम्प्ट में इंक्लूड करना है तो फिर जीरो रेटेड का अलग कैटेगराइजेशन ही नहीं होता। सिंस दे हैव गिवन यू अ स्पेशल कैटेगराइजेशन फॉर जीरो रेटेड, इसका मतलब आपको इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई पे भी मिलेगा। You will get the credit, input tax credit on your zero rated supply as well. But when you make an exempt supply, your input tax credit will not be available. That's the difference between exempt supply and zero rated supply. Okay. Now, input tax credit, what does it cover? It covers section 16. These sections are very important. Other places I don't emphasize on sections. For input tax credit, section remembering is really important. Sir, please explain with an example difference between availment and utilization. Very nice. So I purchased something. Okay, let's go to this slide. Yeah, I have purchased goods this year. This is called, and once I purchased, I have recorded it and shown that I have purchased in my GST returns. Once I show it in my return, it is called as availing the GST. Okay. How can you avail? You can only avail the GST by declaring that in your GSTR 3B return. Okay. Because there's no other way you can avail it, because it has to go and sit in your electronic credit ledger. Correct. So you have purchased something. Now you have filed it in your return and you have availed it. Once you avail it, what you can do with this? You have any sales for this month, then you have sales of 1 lakh rupees. You have availed credit of 90,000 rupees. Now, when you offset this, okay, from your liability of 1 lakh, this 90,000 of credit, when you offset, this is called utilization, because credit to aapne avail kar diya hai by showing it in your returns. Now you have offset that with your output tax. This is called as utilization. So credit 90,000 tha, liability aapka 1 lakh tha, you have availed 90,000 and difference of 10,000 you're paid through cash. So this 90,000, when you show it in your return, this is called availment. When you offset, this is called utilization. Okay. Now you had credit of 90, you have utilized 90 in the same month over. Next month, what is happening? You have availed credit. You have purchased goods and expenses and various things. जिसके ऊपर vendor has charged you 1,50,000 rupees. So you have availed credit of 1,50,000. और आपका in the second month, your sales is still 90,000, 1 lakh rupees. So you have availed 1,50,000 and 1 lakh is your output. So how much will you offset? How much will you say that you have utilized to the extent? Understood, Pooja? So if you have availed 1,50,000 and you have output of 1 lakh, how much is the utilization for this month? One lakh. So you have utilized to the extent of 1 lakh, and this balance 50,000, will it get vanished? it will not get vanished. It will still be with you in your electronic credit ledger, which will be used for your future months. So to the extent of 1 lakh you have availed, and to the extent of 50,000, it is unavailed. Okay. Next month also, if you don't have sale, that will still continue as unutilized lying in your electronic credit ledger. Third month, if you sale of 1 lakh, you will utilize this 50,000. So third month, it is 50,000 utilization. First month, availment is 1,50,000, utilization is 1 lakh, and 50,000 is utilized in the third month. So that is the meaning of availing of input tax credit and utilization of input tax credit. Is it clear? So that is the difference between availing and utilizing of input tax credit. Yeah. If sales return happens in that case, so in our example, if the sale was 1 lakh and there is a return, okay, return of 10,000 rupees, then you will adjust that. Okay, subject to the conditions. There are some conditions to be satisfied, and say you're satisfied all of those conditions, and you have made sale of 1 lakh, return of 10,000 has happened. So your net sale is 90,000 rupees. So you will report net sale of 90,000 rupees. Clear, Pooja? Okay, good. नाउ जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई को हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए. ठीक है, जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई का डेफिनेशन क्या बोलता है? जब आप एक्सपोर्ट करते हो, क्या एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं? या तो गुड्स करोगे या सर्विस करोगे. वो दोनों तरह के एक्सपोर्ट्स को जीरो रेटेड कहते हैं. और जब आप स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को सप्लाई करते हो, ये एसी जोन क्या होता है? ये एक स्पेशल जोन होता है, मतलब स्पेशल एरिया होता है जिसको अलग से डिमार्क कर दिया जाता है, उसको परमिशन लेनी पड़ती है टू कंसिडर इट एज अ जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई, टू कंसिडर एज अ स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन. इन स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन में क्या होता है? मोस्टली ये स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को प्रमोट करते हैं एक्सपोर्ट्स करने के लिए. इंडिया से अगर एक्सपोर्ट्स होगा तो फॉरेन इनकम आएगा, तो देश की तरक्की होगी. सो इट इज एंकरेज टू डू एक्सपोर्ट. तब ये स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन्स जब कुछ एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं, तब वो डोमेस्टिक सप्लाई कम ही करेंगे. तो इसीलिए इनको स्पेशल बेनिफिट दिया गया कि आप या मैं अगर कुछ चीज इन एसईजेड को भी सप्लाई करते हैं तो इससे भी जीरो रेटेड माना जाएगा. ठीक है, तो मैं एक्सपोर्ट डायरेक्टली करूं या तो फिर मैं एसईजेड को सप्लाई करूं, इसे जीरो रेटेड कहते हैं. जीरो रेटेड का बेनिफिट क्या है? कि मेरा इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट भी मिलेगा मुझे, और मुझे आउटपुट पे टैक्स भरने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. क्या Sriram's question is, sir, but the input was need to split to direct eligible, monthly carried forward, ineligible, all that. Correct. That we will have to do. But to understand, I have shown you a simple chart, but yes, what you're saying is correct. We have to split into various categories to claim the credit. We'll come to that. ITC is available in credit sales purchase. Yes, it is still available. It's not that once you purchase, you have to pay immediately, only then you'll get. No, you have a time limit to pay within 180 days. So you will get the credit today itself. You don't have to wait for 180 days to make the payment. You can make payment in the future, say 30 days, 60 days also. But today, when you have received the invoice, you can avail the credit. But if you do not make the payment within 180 days, that's the time limit to make the payment. If you do not make the payment within 180 days, then you will have to reverse the credit on the 181st day. So 180 days, the government is giving you time, make the payment to your vendors. If you do not make the payment, then on the 181st day, you have to reverse the credit. Then what happens if I pay it later on? You reverse it And then once you make the payment, you can claim it back. Okay. So the important sections we are discussing is section 16, which is giving you the eligibility and conditions for claiming the credit. Section 17, which says apportionment of credit and block credit. The slide which we are discussing on business, non-business, or taxable, non-taxable, that is given in section 17. That is the apportionment of credit. It also talks about what is a block credit. Section 18 is credit in special circumstances. Then section 19 talks about input tax credit in respects of input and capital goods when I send to a job worker. Then 20 talks about manner and distribution of credit by IST. And 21 talks about manner of recovery of credit distributed in excess. So these are the main provisions for input tax. We'll go to it one by one. Section 60 says who can claim the credit. Okay. Any person who is registered under GST. The condition to claim the credit firstly is you should be registered. A person who is registered under GST, only he can claim the credit. If I'm not registered, but I have an invoice on which GST is being charged, can I claim the credit? Because I'm satisfying the second condition. The second condition is goods or services to be used in the course of business. I am doing business and I have received the goods for the purpose of business itself. Can I claim the credit? Correct. Yes, for business, okay. Sumit is saying yes, you can claim. Nistala is saying we can claim. Tanu is saying no. Okay, very mixed reaction. So even if you use it for your business, okay, and you have satisfied the condition of receiving the goods, using it for your business, still you cannot claim the credit because the important condition is you should be registered under GST. Only then you can claim the credit. That's why it's the first condition itself. You should be registered under GST and goods should be used in the course of business. Both the conditions should satisfy. Only then you are eligible. Okay. And this, once you are eligible, you will file your returns, the 3B returns, mention the amount there. That input tax credit will be credited to your electronic credit ledger. Okay. Now, what are the conditions for availing the ITC? There are 4 conditions. Section 16 says there are 4 conditions. Baba, you satisfy these 4 conditions, you will get the credit. What is the first condition? You should receive the goods. Okay. You should actually receive the goods. Without receiving the goods, if you have just the invoice, you cannot claim the credit. You should actually receive the goods. Second is the tax levied on supply is actually paid to the government. Okay. The tax which is levied should be paid to the government by the supplier. He should pay it to the government, only then you can claim the credit. If he is not paid, we cannot claim it. Then third condition, you should be in possession of a tax paying document. One is you should receive the goods also, then you should receive the invoice also. Tax paying document is the invoice. So you should have the invoice in your hand. And the fourth condition is you can claim ITC by filing a return, monthly return, which is called as GST or 3B. So if these 4 conditions are satisfied, you can claim the input tax credit. Let's understand one by one. First condition is you should be having a tax paying document. What is this tax paying document? It is an invoice which is issued by the supplier. In case invoice is issued by the recipient receiving goods from unregistered supplying along with proof of payment. So we have seen section 9(4), which says that if you are procuring anything from an unregistered person, who specified category of people itself, not everybody, there are certain specified category of people like builders and developers. If they are procuring for any goods from a unregistered person, then they have to pay GST on behalf of the unregistered person. So they, for them, the tax paying document is the invoice what they will issue themselves. It is called as a self-generated invoice. When they do the self-generated invoice and make the payment of the tax on it, that becomes a tax paying document. What are the other tax paying documents? Debit note issued by the supplier, a bill of entry, because when I import something also I pay GST. That also is amount which is creditable to me. That is a bill of entry. Then concept of revised invoice is there. So once a person is registered, okay, he is registered on time. He's applied for registration on time, but he gets the registration say by the 30th days, because within 30 days he has to get the registration once he's applied. So he gets the registration on the 30th day. For this transition period, that is once he applied for registration and once he received the registration, is gap mein whatever invoice he raised, he can issue a revised invoice. Only in such case, revised invoice is permitted. Then the document issued by an input service distributor. Who is an input service distributor? Input service distribution is a person who is registered as an input service distributor and he distributes the credits to his various branches. Like the word suggests, he is distributing the input. He will get the credit from all the vendors at a central location and he will distribute the credit to various branches. That is the concept of input service distributor. So these are the documents through which you can claim the credit. No ITC of the tax paid towards demands involving fraud. So if you made any fraud and now you're paying the taxes, on that you cannot claim the credit. Apart from that, other documents you can claim the credit. What are the minimum requirements in a document? That invoice, what we are saying, it should have this following basic details. It should have the GST-IN of the supplier and the recipient. It should have the description of the goods. It should have the total value of supply. That is the taxable value. It should have the tax charge separately bifurcated as CGST, SGST, and IGST. It should also mention the place of supply. These are the minimum requirements for a tax invoice. What do you mean in the course of business? In the course of business means if I'm doing a sale trading activity, right? So I should purchase only goods, correct? Then why should I have an office? That is not the business. The business is only buying and selling, but office is required for doing the business. So such expenses which are related to the business is called as in the course of business. Okay, so anything ancillary which I do, which is not directly related, but which is related in a indirect manner, those expenses are called as expenses in the course of business. Okay. GSTR 2A and Rule 36(4). Okay. This is not relevant because now this condition is not there. Now, what is this rule GSTR 2A and Rule 36(4) saying? Yeah. Now there is a condition and a rule. So I have satisfied, I have got the invoice. Then there is an amendment in the act which says that you should have an invoice, but you should also follow Rule 36(4). Rule 36(4) says that there is something. Now I do not know whether what you have purchased is correct or no. So you have to check on your GST system something called as a GSTR 2A, which will be auto population, a populated window of all the vendors from whom you are purchased, they will upload something called as a GSTR1, and it should reflect in your portal. If it reflects, only then you can claim the credit. Let's take an example. Mr. A sells goods to Mr. B, and he is filing his GSTR1. Once he files the GSTR1, what he will mention? He will mention information about the customers to whom he is supplying. Okay. So once he mentions the details of the customer, this, what important thing he will mention? He will mention GST in number, GST identification number of his customer. So once he mentions that, the information from GSTR1 flows to the customer's portal in a statement called GSTR2A. Okay. Once it reflects, the data goes from GSTR2A to 2, and it reflects in his GSTR2A. Basis that he can claim the credit. He will claim the credit basis what is appearing in GSTR2A. Only that he can claim. So if he's purchased from 10 vendors and out of that only 6 vendors details is appearing in GSTR2A, he can claim credit only to the extent what is appearing. And what is not appearing, that he will have to follow up with his vendors and tell them to reflect it in the next month, because there's a cutoff date for reflection in GSTR2A. If it is appearing within that date, he can claim it. If it is not appearing, he will have to follow up. And if it will appear in the next month, then he can claim it. Okay. So if it is appearing, he will claim. If it is not appearing, he will not claim. That is what section 16 says. Now ITC, firstly, it has to be broken down. Say 100 rupees is the ITC. Now first section 16 credit. Have I complied? Yes. This portion can be availed. Okay. Then not compliant, details are not available there. If it is not appearing in 2A, I can claim up to 5%. And if it is completely ineligible, like we will discuss what is blocked credit under section 17 and ineligible credit. If it is an ineligible credit, then I don't have to see whether it's appearing in GSTR 2A or no. Okay, first is it is eligible or not eligible. If it is ineligible, then I don't have to do anything about it. If it is eligible, then I have to see whether it's appearing in GSTR 2A or if it is not appearing, then to the extent of 5% I can claim it. But I think this 5% cap for your syllabus is not relevant. You will only have to see, is it appearing in GSTR 2A? Yes, then you have to claim it. Okay, 5% is still available. So what the government did is initially they said up to 20%, then they reduced to 10%. Now for your exams, 5% is also there. So you will consider the GSTR 2A plus 5% capping you will be allowed. However, these credits will not appear in your GSTR 2A, which what is that? Imports, because when you import, that will not appear in your GSTR 2A, still you can claim it. Then on reverse charge basis, like we had discussed in detail what is reverse charge. Any taxes what you pay will of course not reflect in your GSTR 2A. That also you can claim 100%. Then credit from a input service distributor. This you can avail fully without it showing in your GSTR 2A. Then restriction is calculated on a consolidated basis. That is the 5% has to be considered on a consolidated basis. Okay, so that was the condition 1, that having a valid input tax document. Yes, Nishtala. So if you see your material, you will see that 5% is still mentioned, which means the amendment happened later on. So for your relevant exams, 5% will be available. Let me just confirm with the study material. Sir, section 17 is block credit, right? But GSTR 3B will be showing in section 17.5. Yes, you will have to show it that you have claimed it and you have reversed it. You'll have to do the claiming and reversal portion. Okay. Okay. So this 5% capping is not available. So in your material also, if you see this 5% capping is not available. Sriram, your question is please explain ITC reclaimed under the provisions of the Act. I'll come back to that. Yes, one moment. Yeah, now is it clear? Okay. Recipient, so that 5% capping is not relevant for you. It should appear in your GSTR 2A, only then you can claim. So that 5% capping is gone. Only if it is appearing in GSTR 2A, then you can claim, otherwise you cannot. Second condition is you should actually receive the goods. Second condition is actual receipts of goods. Recipient shall have received the goods. Now, if you have received the invoice and goods have been received in the next month, okay, now you are in the month of July. You say you're on the end of the month, 31st July. You have received the invoice from your vendor, but goods are in transit. He has dispatched it, and you're receiving it in the 1st of August. So which month will you claim the credit? Correct, Sriram. Next month, we will claim the credit. Even though invoice is in old month, will you still claim it next month? Correct. Nishtal is also saying that yes, we will claim it in the August on receipt of goods. Correct. So even though invoice is dated July, second condition says invoice you have fine, but you should also have received the goods. So even if it is under transit, you can claim the credit next month. Invoice can be old dated, but once you receive the goods, that is when the second condition is getting satisfied. Then only you have to claim the credit. So very rightly said by everyone, you will claim it in the next month, that is in the month of August itself. Okay. Then if the recipient has paid advance to the supplier, can I claim the credit? No, because you have paid advance and you have not received the goods. Okay, but it's already reflected in GSTR 2B. Can edit on 3B table 4 to section 2? No, you can't edit it because even though if it is reflected in your GSTR 2B, you still cannot claim it because it should have been actually received. Sir, I have a question related GST. If a proprietor purchases some assets, say mobile on the firm's name, what will be the benefit he'll be getting? That's why you have to understand the whole concept of ITC to get your answer. Okay. So the first is we have to receive. Second condition is you have to have an actual receipt. So on advance payment, you cannot claim the credit. What happens in a bill to ship to transaction? Okay. What is a bill to ship to transaction? I will tell you here. From Maharashtra, you are supplying it to Tamil Nadu, wherein billing is happening to the main supplier, which is Maruti Traders. Now, Maruti Traders says that you bill to me, but you ship the goods to Tamil Nadu. So who will claim the credit? Will Prime Hardware claim the credit for this supply or Maruti Traders claim the credit? Remember, a condition was actual receipt of goods. Actual receipt is happening in Tamil Nadu, but billing is happening to Maruti Traders. So who will claim the credit? But the table 4 section B, 4B 2 is next month carried forward. Correct. Yes, Sriram. So old credit which you're carrying forward. So that is a new system, what you're talking about, 4B, 4B2 and things. But for your exams, you have to still claim the credit once you receive the goods. What new system of filing will not be applicable for your exams? Maruti Traders, how can Maruti Traders claim it? Because he's not actually received the goods, no? The goods have been received by Prime Hardwares. No? Okay. Everybody is saying Maruti Traders. Yes, because the person whom you bill to, he only can claim. That's why there's an exception which says that in case of bill to ship to transactions, even though you do not receive the goods, but goods are received because at your instance by your other person, you can still claim the credit. So this is the only one exception where without actual delivery also you can claim the credit. Okay. Then the third condition is tax leviable on supply is actually paid to the government. Okay. The supplier should have actually paid the tax charged on goods for which ITC is being taken, either by payment in cash or utilizing the credit, because supplier can pay through cash, his output tax, he can pay it through input tax credit or he can pay it through cash. Whichever way he does, he can claim the credit. However, the credit is available provisionally on a self-assessment basis, because whether he pays or no, it is still available to you provisionally. Once he doesn't pay, then you will have to reverse the credit. This is not relevant. And fourth point is you should have filed the return. Okay. So you have to file this 3B. This was the old system which was not available, but you have to file the return in 3B basis your 2A. That is when you will get the credit. Other points to consider for ITC claiming is where the goods are against an invoice and are received in lots. You have received in multiple lots. Then will you claim the credit on receipt of first lot or the last lot? Or you can claim proportionate credit as and when the lots are received. Tanu, that 5% capping is not applicable, so don't think about it, because that is not relevant for you. If I tell you, it will confuse you, so that there's nothing relevant for you. Correct. So in this example of receiving of lots, say an invoice is raised for 1 lakh rupees, but the goods are so very voluminous that I have to send it in various dates. So I will break up the whole value of 1 lakh into various lots. Up to the extent of 30,000, I'll send today, 20,000, I'll send you tomorrow, and balance 50,000 on the third day. You cannot claim the credit on the first day when the goods have been sent on lots or installments. You can claim the credit when you receive it in the last lot itself. Okay. Then payment should be made to the supplier. Somebody had asked this question that, can I claim the credit even when I make the payment to my vendor later on? Yes, you can claim it, but you have to make the payment to your supplier within 180 days. If paid later, then reverse the credit. How will you reverse the credit? By adding it in your output tax liability and pay interest, because you have availed and not satisfied the condition of making the payment within 180 days. So you have to pay interest from the date of availing the credit till the date of reversal. That is the penal consequence, because government has said that we are giving you the credit. Now this credit, we are hoping that you will make the payment within 180 days. If you make the payment within 180 days, yes, you have satisfied the condition, no reversal required. But if you don't make the payment within 180 days, then you will have to reverse the credit. Okay. And once you reverse it, then you make the payment later on, you can claim back that credit. Exception is RCM, deemed supply without consideration, additions made to supplier's liability being incurred. So these are the only exceptions. Then ITC on capital goods, yes, can I claim? If I've claimed depreciation on the tax component, I have purchased a machinery, it's a capital goods, right? Now machinery is costing me 10 lakh rupees. Fine, I will pay 10 lakh rupees. There is something called as depreciation under Income Tax Act, correct? So you will get the benefit of depreciation. On 10 lakh rupees, you have claimed depreciation. Now the tax, he will charge 18%. So 10 lakh rupees worth of machinery, he will charge 1,80,000 rupees. So how much you should claim depreciation on? What should be the value on which you should claim depreciation? Is it 10 lakhs or 11,80,000 rupees? You will claim depreciation on 11,80,000. Nahi. So when you purchase any machinery, you should claim only depreciation on the value of the goods. The value of the machinery is 10 lakhs. So you claim depreciation on 10 lakhs. 1,80,000, you can claim full input tax credit. Because depreciation, so you'll get it year on year, reducing balance method or straight line method, you'll get over number of years. So you should, as an accounting policy, you should claim depreciation on 10 lakhs and 1,80,000, you should claim the credit. But if you are having a policy that no, we will not claim input tax credit, and you are capitalizing full 11,80,000 and you're claiming depreciation, then on the full 11,80,000, you're getting the depreciation benefit. So you will not get the input tax credit benefit. Okay. So you can get either of the one. You cannot get both. You cannot say I will claim depreciation on full 11,80,000 and I will claim input tax credit of 1,80,000. That is not possible. So you should either do one of that you have to claim capital value for depreciation as 10 lakhs and claim 1,80,000 as ITC, or full 11,80,000 claim depreciation, then you will not get your input tax credit. Clear? Please explain depreciation on tax component. Now you understood, Nistala? Yeah, yeah. Just one moment. Got it. So that's how you will claim depreciation on capital goods or input tax credits, one of them. Next, what is the time limit to claim the credit? That is the availment of the credit. A registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit in respect of any invoice or debit note after the following dates. You can claim the credit by the due date of furnishing of the return under Section 39 for the month of September. Okay, you can claim the credit within the month of September or filing of the annual return, whichever is earlier. I'll just check if there is any revisions. Okay, now this has been updated, right? This was the law before. Now 30th September for your relevant thing is not there. Now it is November. You have to file your returns by November 30th. Why I've kept it? So that you know the difference. That earlier it was you have to file it by the month of September. Now they're saying that if you file your returns by the 30th November, that is also permitted. So if you file your returns by the November of 30th, like I have claimed the credit for 2019-20. The invoice was dated 19. I have received the goods in April 2019. I have the invoice date also April 2019. I should file it in the month of April 2019, correct? Now I've not filed, I missed it. Can I claim it in the next month? Yes, I can claim it in the month of May. Can I claim it any number of months? Yes, you can claim it in any number of months for 1920. Now I have forgotten to claim it in 1920. Next year in 2020, I got to know that I have to claim a credit on this. I'm not claimed. Can I claim it in the in the month of in the year of 2020? Yes, but you have to claim it in those returns which you filed before 30th November. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October, because October month return you will file by 20th November. If you have filed that in the any of these months, April to October, still you can claim it. So you have a time limit to claim it in the current financial year. Firstly, if you have forgotten, then you can claim it in the next year's return also if those returns are filed by the 30th November. Okay. But this time limit, yeah, any some question, 30th day of November and annual return, whichever is earlier. Correct. So this has been a change for your exams. So within this time, you have to claim the credit. This is the time limit for availing the credit. Now, if you claim it within this time, you can utilize for any number of years. For utilization, there is no time limit. The time limit specified here is only for availing the credit. Once you avail it, you can utilize for any number of years. But once you have availed it, then it is yours. But if you miss to avail it, say your return, you have forgotten to claim it in the 1920 credit in November 20, you have claimed it in December 20. That is ineligible credit. It will not be a valid credit. Fine. Now I have reversed some credit. Somebody was asking that what is re-availment of credit in the chat. So Sriram, what is reavailment of credit is I have reversed I've claimed the credit. Now I've reversed it. Why I have reversed it? Because I've not made payment to the vendor within 180 days. Fine. So I have reversed it. To reavail the credit, this time limit of 30th November will not apply. Okay. So this claim of credit is to claim it at the first instance. Once you reverse it, then you can reclaim it any point of time. There is no time limit. Yes, I find that one scenario on my bill audit time, the company bill received from AR traders, but the GST reflected on AR CNC machinery services with different GST number. Okay, and you have suggested that ITC is ineligible. Correct. So the vendor should raise a bill to the correct party. If it is not to the correct party, they should not claim it. What you should do is you should inform the vendor to correct the GSTIN in his returns. If he has time limit, he can revise it. If he has no time limit, then he cannot revise it. What is reavailment? Reavailment means once you reverse it, you can take it back. That taking it back is called as reavailment. When you're availing the credit after reversal, that is called as reavailment of credit. Okay, let's proceed further. Okay, this I will not take up. So what are the conditions now? The dealer should be in possession of a tax invoice. The said goods have been received and he has received the goods or services in case of bill to ship to transaction. GST returns has been filed. The charge tax has been paid to the government by the supplier. When goods are received in installments, ITC claimed only when the last lot is received, and no ITC will be allowed if depreciation has not been claimed on the tax component on a capital goods. So this is the conditions for claiming credit. Clear till now? Section 16. This is the crux of section 16, what it says. Any queries till now? Clear? Come on, I need response from you. Whether section 16 is clear, then we can proceed to section 17 on proportionate credit and blocked credit. हाँ पूजा, what is your query?
मानना था कि जैसे 180 डेज के अंदर जो 180 डेज वाला जो प्रोविजन है जिसमें मतलब सप्लायर को 180 डेज तक अगर पेमेंट नहीं सप्लायर को पेमेंट नहीं किया तो उस केस में जीएसटी का पैसा नहीं मिलता है। मतलब जैसे कि टू सप्लायर है, सप्लायर 1 एंड सप्लायर 2, तो सप्लायर 1 ने सप्लायर 2 को सेल किया मान लो 10,000 रुपीज का, उसके ऊपर 18% का जीएसटी है 1,800 रुपीज। तो सप्लायर 2 ने सप्लायर 1 को जीएसटी की पेमेंट नहीं की 1,800 रुपीज की, तो उस केस में 180 डेज हो गए, तो 180 डेज के बाद में सप्लायर टू को गवर्नमेंट को पेमेंट करना पड़ेगा, मतलब 1800 रुपीज। तो क्या गवर्नमेंट बाद में सप्लायर वन को 1800 वापस करेगी?
हाँ, तो ये थोड़ा गैप है जीएसटी में कि सप्लायर टू जो है सप्लायर वन के इनवॉइस पे क्रेडिट ले रहा है, ठीक है, और सप्लायर वन गवर्नमेंट को पे कर रहा है। करेक्ट, गवर्नमेंट को पैसा मिल गया है। नाउ
यस सर।
सप्लायर टू जब रिवर्स करता है, फिर सप्लायर वन को गवर्नमेंट पैसा नहीं दे रही है, सिर्फ सप्लायर टू पे बोल रही है कि तुमने जो पेमेंट नहीं किया उसका तुम इंटरेस्ट पे करो।
तो
ठीक
सर
है।
इससे तो जी,
करेक्ट।
इससे तो फिर सप्लायर वन को लॉस हो जाएगा, मतलब जीएसटी
करेक्ट।
का।
करेक्ट। ये तो लॉस होगा ही। सो गवर्नमेंट क्या बोल रही है कि आपके कस्टमर है सप्लायर टू, तो आप उनसे रिकवर कीजिए, हम आप दोनों के बीच में नहीं पड़ेंगे।
तो सर इससे गवर्नमेंट के पास मतलब ज्यादा 1800 ज्यादा रुपए चले जाएंगे, सप्लायर टू भी पे कर रहा है, सप्लायर वन भी पे कर रहा है।
करेक्ट। करेक्ट, ये लीगल इश्यू है जो कोर्ट्स में चल रहा है। इस बात पे कोई इसका रेजोल्यूशन नहीं आया है, तो ये अभी तक कोर्ट में ही पड़ा है इतने सालों से। आप जो बोल रहे हैं करेक्ट है। सप्लायर वन को तो लॉस हो रहा है और गवर्नमेंट को डबल बेनिफिट हो रहा है।
सर मुझे एक और बात जाननी थी, जैसे कि आपने बताया अवेलमेंट और
हम्म।
यूटिलाइजेशन के बारे में।
हम्म।
तो इसमें जैसे कि वो अमाउंट अवेलमेंट होती है जो 2B 2A में शो होती है, उसको अवेलमेंट बोलते हैं, या फिर मतलब हमें 3B में कहीं और अवेलमेंट शो करना पड़ता है कि ये अवेलमेंट है, इतना यूटिलाइज कर रहे हो, मतलब ये मुझे
करेक्ट।
थोड़ा
टू
सा
बी
क्लियर नहीं हो रहा।
हाँ, 2B 2A में जो रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है उसे अवेल नहीं कहेंगे, क्योंकि वो तो सिर्फ एक स्टेटमेंट है, उससे आपको कुछ अवेलमेंट नहीं होता है। जब आप उसको क्रॉस वेरीफाई करके आपके बुक्स के साथ मैच करके आपके 3B में जब आप एंट्री लेते हो कि दिस इज माय इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट, ठीक है, और आप उस रिटर्न को फाइल करते हो, तब आपका जीएसटी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट अवेल होता है। ठीक है। और
मतलब मैं जी,
हाँ, वो अवेल होता है और आपके इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर में दिख जाता है।
इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर में अवेलमेंट शो होता है।
करेक्ट।
तो मतलब हमें खुद से अवेलमेंट के लिए अलग कॉलम नहीं होता है उसके अंदर, भी इतना मैंने अवेल कर लिया, या इतना, जैसे कि आपने बताया कि 1.5 लाख रुपया यूटिलाइजेशन का था मेरे पास, और 1 लाख का आउटपुट था। तो सर जैसे कि मुझे 1.5 लाख रुपया कहीं अलग शो करना पड़ता है कि इतना अवेल किया है मैंने, और
हाँ।
मतलब जीएसटी
हाँ,
3B के अंदर, और फिर
जीएसटी
मुझे
3B में
यूटिलाइजेशन
मुझे
में अलग
दिखाना
से 1 लाख।
चाहिए। करेक्ट, जीएसटी 3B में मुझे 1,50,000 इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट अवेल करके दिखाना चाहिए, और उसी जीएसटी 3B में मेरा सेल्स भी मेंशन करूंगा जो 1 लाख का आउटपुट टैक्स है। ठीक है। फिर लास्ट में एक कॉलम आता है जो बताता है आपको कि कितना लायबिलिटी है, 1 लाख का लायबिलिटी है, उसमें से आप 1,50,000 में 1 लाख यूज कर रहे हो, तो फिर वो यूटिलाइजेशन भी दिखा देगा। तो आपने अवेल 1,50,000 का किया है, यूटिलाइज उसी रिटर्न में 1 लाख का दिया है, ये दोनों आपके इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर में दिखेंगे।
ओके सर। सर मुझे इसमें एक और बात जाननी है कि जैसे जो ब्लॉक्ड क्रेडिट क्रेडिट होता है, मतलब 17 सेक्शन 17 वाला, तो
हम्म।
उसके अंदर जो जैसे कि जो हम एंट्री करते हैं, तो उसमें जीएसटी रिसीवेबल एंट्री होगी या नहीं होगी?
जीएसटी रिसीवेबल एंट्री नहीं करेंगे क्योंकि वो आपका रिसीवेबल ही नहीं है।
मतलब डायरेक्ट फुल वैल्यू से एंट्री हो जाएगी, जैसे कि
फुल
13C।
वैल्यू से एक्सपेंस हो जाएगा। करेक्ट।
ओके सर। सर एक और बात पूछनी थी कि जैसे नील रेटेड सप्लाई होता है,
ठीक है।
जैसे कि सर नील रेटेड सप्लाई होता है, उसके अंदर रेट ऑफ टैक्स जीरो होता है। और जो
करेक्ट।
जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई होता है, तो उसमें एक्सपोर्ट या फिर एसईजेड में जो भी हम सेल करते हैं, तो उसमें भी टैक्स का रेट जीरो ही लगता है। तो क्या
करेक्ट।
जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई को हम नील रेटेड सप्लाई मान सकते हैं?
नहीं,
क्योंकि
दोनों का रेट, नील रेटेड भी जीरो है, जीरो रेटेड का भी जीरो है, लेकिन जीरो रेटेड का मतलब स्पेसिफिकली बताया गया है कि जब आप एक्सपोर्ट करते हो और एसईजेड को सप्लाई करते हो, इन दो चीजों को ही एक्सपोर्ट जीरो रेटेड कहेंगे। अगर निल रेटेड है तो उसे आप एग्जेम्प्टेड कहोगे।
तो सर जैसे कि एग्जेम्प्टेड की जो डेफिनेशन दी है 2 क्लॉज 42 के अंदर, उसके अंदर तो मतलब नील रेटेड इंक्लूड किया गया है, और
करेक्ट।
जीरो रेटेड मतलब उसमें नहीं आएगा।
करेक्ट। एग्जैक्टली क्यों नहीं आएगा? क्योंकि एग्जेम्प्टेड का मतलब या तो फिर एग्जेम्पशन है या फिर निल रेटेड है, वो एग्जेम्प्टेड है। जीरो रेटेड एग्जेम्प्टेड में नहीं है। ठीक है, तो हम प्रोपोर्शनेट बोल रहे हैं। आगे भी हम देखेंगे कि जब मैं एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई के लिए कुछ सप्लाई कर रहा हूं, ठीक है, जो नॉन टैक्सेबल सप्लाई के लिए भी सप्लाई कर रहा हूं, उसके लिए मुझे एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई में इंक्लूड करके इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा। ठीक है, लेकिन अगर मैं जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई करता हूं तो मुझे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट रिवर्स करने की जरूरत नहीं। इसीलिए जीरो रेटेड को एग्जेम्प्टेड के डेफिनेशन में इंक्लूड नहीं किया गया है।
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
क्लियर हुआ आपका डाउट?
यस सर।
Okay, section 16 is clear. Very nice. So we'll proceed further with section 17. Section 17 basically says that what we have discussed earlier also. If you use anything for business and if you use anything for non-business, if you're specifically buying anything for non-business, then it is not claimable straight away. If you are using for business, then you have a further bifurcation where it is used for wholly taxable supply, then claimable. And if it is claimed for zero rated also, still it is claimable. Like how Madam was asking, how can we claim credit even if it is zero rated? That's why it's a special category wherein they've said for wholly taxable supply and zero rated supplies, full credit can be claimed. If it is a non-taxable supply and this exempt supplies, then you cannot claim it. Okay, so wholly taxable and zero rated, you can fully claim. If it is a non-taxable and exempt supply, then you cannot claim the credit. So these three things, you cannot claim the credit. And for banks, financial institutions, and NBFCs, they have given an option saying that you do the apportionment on this basis, what you have discussed in the previous slide. Or if it is not possible, you have been given a second option. Who? Not everybody. Only this banks, financial institutions, and non-banking financial companies, wherein you can avail 50% of the input tax credit in the each month. Okay, saying that okay, 50% you claim, 50% you don't claim. Don't do this complicated transactions because banking you will have a lot of transactions. So you just claim 50% of your input tax credit and 50% you lapse it. This is the option given. ITC on input services for non-business and block credits will not be available. So if you're specifically using anything for non-business, you're using for any block credit, that will not be available. Only what is left over, that is the common credit. On that 50% you lapse it. And 100% credit of the tax paid will be available when you receive anything from another registration within the same entity. Within the same entities, if there's any transaction between a related party transactions, then you will claim the 100% credit. But if it is common credit, you have to reverse 50%. And this option, if the banks opt for it, then that will be valid for the whole year. Okay. Now block credits. Block credits means those credits where it is appearing in your GSTR 2B, you have received the invoice, you have received the goods, everything, but still it will be blocked because it is blocked. The government in the section itself has said that irrespective of whether you use for your businesses, you satisfy all the conditions of section 16, but on this, we will not give you the credit. What are those? If you purchase any on vehicles, planes, and ships, you will not get the credit. What are these vehicles? Motor vehicles carrying persons having seating capacity less than 13 people. Any motor vehicles having seating capacity up to 13 people, you will not get the credit. So if it is having more than 13 people, which means it will be a van or a bus, you will get the credit because you will use it not as a luxury. You will use it for transporting of your employees. That is fine. So if you're having a small car, even then you're using it for employees, you will not get it. The capacity of that vehicle should be more than 13 passengers. Only then it is allowed. If it is less than 13 passengers, even if used for business, no credit. And all aircraft and vessels, you will not get the credit. Correct? Because aircraft and vessel you will not use for any transportation of your passengers or transportation of your employees. You will not get the credit. But you can still claim when you're making further supply of such motor vehicles. You're a trader, you're a dealer of motor vehicles, you can claim it. Fine. Because there you cannot say that car purchase, I will not give you the credit. Your activity, that car is a stock in your hand. Then you can claim the credit. Second, when you're transporting passengers, if you're a cab driver, okay, you are in the business of carrying passengers, then you can claim it. A aircraft company, okay, they are purchasing the aircraft for running the show of the airlines, then you can claim it. Like a company which is buying a aircraft, private aircraft for its director, you cannot claim the credit. Then if you are availing ITC for any training purposes, you have bought a car and giving a driving coaching classes, still you can claim the credit. Or you are using the car for transporting of goods. Only in such cases you can claim the credit, not in other cases. Second, manufacturer of motor vehicles, he will get it. And supplier of general insurance, this person will get credit. Okay. Then leasing, renting, or hiring of such motor cars also you will not get. So you said me that buying of the motor vehicles is permitted. Now I'll take it on lease. Now you cannot say I've purchased, that also is blocked. So any leasing, renting is also blocked. Again, the exception is when you are taking a lease and giving it on lease, then you will get it. And where it is obligatory, like some government says that for safety of your employees, you have to provide them the car. Only if a government is giving you a mandate, it will not give mandate to everybody. It will give that mandate to whom? To a person who's running a BPO. For him, it becomes compulsory. When it is a compulsion, then you will get the credit, not otherwise. Okay. Then what are the other block credits? Food and beverages. Any kind of food is not allowed. Outdoor catering services is blocked. Beauty treatment is blocked. Health services, cosmetic and plastic surgery, life insurance and health insurance, all of this is blocked. But when such services are again used for making taxable outward supply, like an insurance company takes reinsurance, for them credit is available. A food, outdoor catering, beauty treatment, health services, when they're taking any other services and providing this output, they will claim. A normal business cannot claim it. And again, whenever there is a statutory obligation of employer to provide, saying a Factories Act says that you have to provide canteen for your employees. If you have more than 50 employees, then they can claim the credit. In normal scenarios, they cannot claim. Only if there is a statutory obligation, they can claim, otherwise no. Then membership of a club health fitness center for employees, you're buying a club membership, no credit. And if it is statutory obligation, generally there will be no statutory obligation that you open a club. Fine. So generally it will not be available. Then Travel benefits extended by the employees on vacation, such as leave or home travel concession. Leave travel concession, home travel concession. On that also, credit is not available. All of this is block credits. Another block credit is works contract service. So any works contract service for construction of an immovable property. You are building a factory. Of course, it is for business purpose, but it's a works contract service. Works contract service for building, construction, fabrication, completion, anything you do, you will not get the credit. But if it is an input credit for further supply, which means a builder, developer, or a contractor, they can claim the credit because their business itself is building. Only they can claim the credit. A person who wants to run an office is building his office. Whatever construction material, everything is involved. All of this is works contract. He will not get the credit. But if you are doing any kind of works contract for construction of plant and machinery, then you will get it. So you have to install a machinery. For that, you are doing some construction, then it will be available. Like a big machinery could be of Indian Oil Corporation. They want to set up a big oil plant. They just cannot buy an oil plant and keep it. They'll have to put proper structure for it. For that, works contract will be involved. That credit will be available because it is related to plant and machinery. Fine. What is plant and machinery? For this, plant and machinery means apparatus, equipment, and machinery fixed to earth by foundation or structural support that are used for making the outward supply, like a machinery which is used for manufacturing oil tank that is also used for supply. So anything which you use for the making outward taxable supply, that will be allowed. But it excludes land, building, or any other civil structure. So just land or building will not be available. Telecommunication towers specifically not available, and pipelines laid outside the factory premises, these are not available. So works contract is not available, and then construction of an immovable property on own account also is not available. Exception again, plant and machinery, and those which is not capitalized that you can avail. What else is block credit? Inward supplies charged to tax under composition levy. So a composition supplier, first of all, cannot charge itself. Even if he's charging and if you're buying something from him, you cannot claim a credit. So if you're buying anything from a composite supplier, he should only pay taxes to the government. You should not pay anything to him. Then inward supplies received by a non-resident taxable person. A non-resident taxable person, when is coming to India and doing any business, he cannot claim any credit. Only one credit what he can claim is tax paid on goods what he is importing. Only those goods which he is importing, he can claim it. If he's procuring anything from a domestic Indian person, he cannot claim the credit. Who? Only a non-resident taxable person. Then goods or services used for personal consumption, of course, we cannot claim it. Right? Anything which is used for business only we can claim. Anything which you are doing for your personal consumption, you cannot claim it. Goods lost, stolen, or destroyed, or which are written off or disposed of by way of gift or free sample, again, you cannot claim it. So you bought some goods, raw materials, you have kept it in your godown. They have been lost or destroyed by fire. So whatever ITC you have to reverse it. But this was natural. Government is saying, yes, it was natural. It is unfortunate, but we gave you the input tax credit to manufacture it and supply it. Now you have not maintained it well and you have destroyed it or lost or stolen. You are responsible. So reverse the ITC. Okay. Then tax paid in fraud cases for detention and confiscation. In special circumstances, if you pay any taxes, that also credit is not available. Clear? Very fast, but you have to pick up the pace. That all of this is block credit on which we will not get the input tax credit benefit. Okay, we'll take a break of around 5 to 7 minutes. In the meantime, if you have any questions, keep posting it. Okay, so there are some questions in the chat box. Please explain block credits car from study material. What is your specific query, Nistala? If you could just mention that. And next question is construction of plant machinery is not on account. Hmm. On own account, yeah. So construction of an immobile property on own account means if you're doing any construction for your own business. So if a company is there, they're doing construction of an immobile property for their business, then credit is not available. If you're doing for somebody else, then it is available. So when will you do for somebody else? When you are into the business of immobile property construction. That is when you're a contractor, you're a builder, then you will do it. Then it is available because you are into that business. Okay. Sir, if travel agency buys car for their customer pickup, then ITC will be blocked? No, then ITC will be not be blocked because car specifically we have said that if they are into the business wherein they're using that as a stock, then credit is available. Study material, page number 8.38. Okay, let me go to that.
Mm.
8.38. Okay, which one? There are so many cars. The term leasing. Leasing, renting, or hiring of motor vehicles or aircraft on which ITC is not allowed is the point. So ITC on leasing, renting, or hiring of motor vehicles or aircraft on which ITC allowed is allowed. Okay, I'll come to this. ITC on car purchased by a manufacturing company. Okay, so they are giving various scenarios of the cars when it is available, when it is not available. Correct. So this we had discussed. If you are buying a car and transporting your employees for work to home to work, still credit is not available because a car with seating capacity of less than 13 people is always blocked. Okay, so this is blocked. ITC on cars purchased by a car dealer for sale to customer. He is into that business, so credit is available. ITC on cars purchased by a company engaged in renting out cars is allowed. That is what question our friend had asked. So it is allowed. ITC on cars purchased by a car driving school is still allowed. ITC on buses, which has a seating capacity of 24 persons, purchased by a company for transportation of their employees from residence to office and back is allowed because more than 13 people capacity vehicle is allowed. ITC on trucks purchased by a company for transportation of goods. For transportation of goods, credit is available, correct? So it is allowed. ITC on aircraft purchased by a manufacturer company for official use of its CEO. Even though if it is official use, any kind of aircraft purchased by a non-aircraft company is blocked. ITC on aircraft purchased by an aviation school is allowed because they're using that for providing the services. ITC on general insurance taken on a car is blocked because if the car which was blocked, then all the repairs, maintenance, insurance is also blocked. If it be in the insurance for that bus, it is allowed. On the truck is allowed. ITC on general insurance taken on cars manufactured by a car manufacturing company, for them it is allowed. Then a business jet purchased for official travel is again blocked. Clear with this? Very good. All examples are covered. Sir, sale of land transaction securities are not covered in the definition of goods or services, so it would not be a supply. But 17.3 says it includes exempt supply. Yes, it includes in exempt supply all those transactions which are not supply. Correct. So if you do any sale of land, that is a part of the exempt supply. if you're doing any transaction securities, it is a part of exempt supply. So in exempt supply, they want to cover supplies which is exempted by notification, supplies which are nil rated supply, and supplies which are not chargeable to GST. All of this three they want to include under the exempt supply. You know why? Because any input tax credit you avail, you should not claim it. Because if this definition of non-GST supply is not there in exempt supply, then you will avail the credit. That's the reason they have included all of this in the definition of exempt supply, ताकि क्रेडिट ब्लॉक हो सके. Awesome. So सभी block credits we understood. Now what happens in case of a ITC in the hands of a supplier for sales promotion schemes, various sales promotion scheme, and we saw that in the previous slide कि जब goods lost, stolen, destroyed, goods that are written off, or goods which are disposed of by way of gift or free sample, still credit will not be available. So what do we do in that case? Where it is given by way of gift or free sample, there is a circular which says that on samples and free gifts, ITC shall be available if the activity of distribution of gifts falls within the scope of supply in Schedule 1, which means Schedule 1 also says that when you make any disposal of goods, you have to pay GST, even if there is no consideration. So there cannot be a conflict between Schedule 1 and this section. So if they are falling under Schedule 1 and you are paying output tax, okay, even though there is no supply, if you're paying output tax considering it's a Schedule 1 transaction, then you don't have to do this reversal. If it is not, you're not paying the output tax, then reverse the input tax credit. One of that you have to do. Okay, so in case of free samples, either pay tax on their market value, that's called as open market value. If you're paying output tax credit, output tax on such free samples, don't reverse the input tax credit. If you're reversing the input tax credit, then don't pay the output tax. One of them you have to follow. Now there are some offers. Generally, it's given like buy one, get one free. So that first one is free or the second one is free. One of them is free. But the manufacturer, when he does something like this, he always captures the cost of both of it and he is reducing his prices. So if the price of two products were 100 plus 100, 200, he will tell that, okay, 200 is the price, buy one, get one free. So he's calculating the pricing in such a way that the second free product also has a price which is embedded in the first product. So in such case, you don't have to do any ITC reversal in case of a buy one, get one offer. Discounts including buy more, save more offers, supplier shall be entitled to avail ITC subject to reversal of ITC by the recipient. Like in valuation we had discussed, right? The recipient has to reverse the ITC credit. If he reverse the ITC credit, then he will be can avail the ITC. Secondary discounts we have discussed, such discounts are not known at the time of supply. Since such discounts are not reduced from the sale price, ITC need not be reversed. Okay. Wherever it is outside GST discounts, their ITC need not be reversed. If there is any other ITC, their ITC has to be reversed. Okay, this is another circular which says that what happens in case of return of expired goods. If it is a registered person, then you raise an invoice for the return based on the original invoice received, which means mainly this is for medical products. So when you sell goods off to medicinal shops, and if the or any FMCG products and the expiry date is nearing, you cannot sell it. You have to return those goods back to the manufacturer. So if a dealer, he is registered and he's bought these goods, now he's returning these goods, then he will have to raise an invoice for these goods, and the wholesaler manufacturer can claim the credit. If he is a composition dealer, then he will issue a bill of supply, and a composition dealer cannot charge GST, so a wholesaler or a manufacturer cannot claim the ITC. Third is if it's an unregistered person, he cannot issue a tax invoice. He will issue a commercial invoice, no tax charge, no credit claim. If and the manufacturer on destroying the medicines, because he will get back all of these medicines from various people. Now he has to destroy this, and once he destroys this, he has to reverse the ITC, because any kind of disposal of goods, ITC has to be reversed. This manufacturer will reverse the ITC to the extent of disposal of the goods. Okay, this is what the circular is clarifying. Next, section 18. So as we understood section 16, we understood block credits under 17. Now we'll move to section 18. 18 says that, ITC on opening stock of inputs at the time of new registration. Now, these are all special circumstances which says that we will give you credit even if normal circumstances are not there. So these are all special circumstances, which means that in special situation, you will get special credit. Now, 18(1)(a) says ITC on opening stock of inputs at the time of registration. Let me zoom this. Yeah. So section 18(1)(a) says ITC you will get on opening stock of inputs at the time of new registration. Now you have applied for registration. Before this, you were dealing. You didn't. It's not that you are starting your business. This is a case where you are continuing your business, and now you have taken registration because you have crossed the threshold limit. So what happens? You had some stock. Now, once you are registered under GST, you will charge GST. And these stock, what you have purchased, on that also supplier has charged you. So you will ask that when I'm paying taxes once I register, so you give me the credit also. ठीक है, तो ये क्या बोलता है सेक्शन 18(1)(a), जब मैं नया रजिस्ट्रेशन लेता हूं तब मेरे स्टॉक के ऊपर भी मुझे क्रेडिट मिलना चाहिए, क्योंकि जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन करने के बाद तो मैं सभी सप्लाईज, पुराने स्टॉक और स्टॉक इन हैंड और नए स्टॉक पे भी जीएसटी पे करूंगा, तो फिर मुझे क्रेडिट मिलना चाहिए। हाँ, सही बात है। तो गवर्नमेंट 18(1)(a) लेके आया है, जो बोलता है कि a person who has applied for registration within 30 days from the date only which he becomes liable for registration. आपको 30 दिन का टाइम है। अगर आप सही टाइम पे रजिस्ट्रेशन लेते हो तब आपको क्या मिलेगा? आपके इनपुट्स जो स्टॉक में है, इनपुट्स जो सेमी फिनिश्ड गुड्स में हो और फिनिश्ड गुड्स, तीनों इनपुट्स, सेमी फिनिश्ड गुड्स और फिनिश्ड गुड्स, इन तीनों के ऊपर जब आप रजिस्ट्रेशन अप्लाई करने से एक दिन पहले का स्टॉक है, उसके ऊपर आपको जीएसटी क्रेडिट मिलेगी। He will get credit of all of these three things on the day immediately preceding the date from which he becomes liable for registration. अगर ये 30 दिन के अंदर अप्लाई करता है तो ये मिलेगा, अगर 30 दिन के बाद अप्लाई करता है तो ये बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा। सेकेंड, 18(1)(b), ITC on opening stock of inputs in case of voluntary registration. तो हमने कहा फर्स्ट 18(1)(a) में कि जब आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन करना है, आपने टाइम पे रजिस्ट्रेशन किया। 18(1)(b) क्या बोलता है कि आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन करना ही नहीं था, फिर भी आपने वॉलंटरी रजिस्ट्रेशन कर दिया है, तब भी आपको क्रेडिट मिलेगा ऑन इनपुट्स, सेमी फिनिश्ड गुड्स एंड फिनिश्ड गुड्स व्हेन, उसमें तो डेट व्हेन आई अप्लाई फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन था 18(1)(b) पे, ऑन द डे इमीडिएटली प्रीसीडिंग द डेट ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन। ओके, इमीडिएटली डेट ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट के एक दिन पहले का स्टॉक जो रहेगा उसके ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट मिलेगा, क्योंकि ये वॉलंटरी कर रहे हो। 18(1)(a) तो आपको कंपलसरी था। थर्ड, 18(1)(c) बोलता है जब आप कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम में थे, अब कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम से आप रेगुलर स्कीम में आते हो। कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम में तो आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता था, अब रेगुलर स्कीम में आपको क्रेडिट मिलेगा। तो फिर उस स्टॉक के ऊपर जब आप कॉम्पोजिशन टू रेगुलर में कन्वर्ट हो रहे हो, तब जो स्टॉक रहता है सेम इनपुट, सेमी फिनिश्ड एंड फिनिश्ड गुड्स, और वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, इसमें कैपिटल गुड्स का भी क्रेडिट मिलेगा। ओके, कैपिटल गुड्स का भी आपको क्रेडिट मिलेगा ऑन द डे इमीडिएटली प्रीसीडिंग द डे फ्रॉम विच ही बिकम्स लायबल टू पे टैक्स अंडर सेक्शन 9, दैट इज रेगुलर। जब आप कॉम्पोजिशन टू रेगुलर में आते हो तब भी आपको क्रेडिट मिलता है। और लास्ट सिचुएशन है जब आपके गुड्स एग्जेम्प्टेड थे, अब उसके ऊपर टैक्स लग गए हैं, क्योंकि ऑन सम गुड्स इट विल बी एग्जेम्प्टेड, और कभी कभी गवर्नमेंट नोटिफाई कर देता है कि इसके ऊपर टैक्स लगेगा। करेक्ट। तो फिर जब मैं एग्जेम्प्टेड में था तब मैं आईटीसी भी नहीं लेता था, लेकिन अभी मैं एग्जेम्प्टेड से टैक्सेबल हो गया हूँ, तब मेरे जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट है, जो इनपुट स्टॉक है, सेम इनपुट्स स्टॉक, सेमी फिनिश्ड गुड्स एंड फिनिश्ड गुड्स और कैपिटल गुड्स, इनके ऊपर जो भी फ्रॉम एग्जेम्प्टेड टू टैक्सेबल डेट कन्वर्ट हो रहा है, उस दिन का स्टॉक के ऊपर मुझे क्रेडिट मिलेगा। सो दिस इज व्हाट इज 18(1) सेइंग। ओके, बाई वन गेट वन हिंदी में बताइए। बाई वन गेट वन कॉन्सेप्ट क्या बोलता है कि जब आप बाई वन गेट वन करते हो और स्कीम निकालते हो, तब ये फ्री नहीं है। जो बाई वन गेट वन है, उन दोनों का प्राइस एक ही में मिला हुआ है, तो इसका सेल प्राइस है, तो आपको इनपुट टैक्स रिवर्स करने की जरूरत नहीं है। क्या? क्लियर ऑन सेक्शन 16, 17, 18? वेरी गुड। ओके, नाउ विल गो इनटू कैंसलेशन। जब रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल होता है, तब आपको पूरा आईटीसी गुड, कैपिटल गुड्स, जो भी क्रेडिट्स आपके पास बचे हैं उसको रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा, या फिर आपका आउटपुट टैक्स पेएबल जो रहेगा जब आप बेचोगे, विच एवर इज हायर यू हैव टू पे। इसका मतलब ऐसा नहीं होगा कि आप कैंसिल करोगे और आपका आईटीसी बैलेंस रहेगा, ऐसा नहीं होगा। when you cancel your registration, whatever ITC you have in your inputs on your stock, either that credit or output tax payable, whichever is higher, you have to pay it. That is what it said in case of cancellation of registration. Now, ITC, how will you claim? Very, this we are discussed, but again, we will explain here. Saying first, ITC of IGST, utilize it fully. आप IGST खत्म किए बिना आप आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते हो। So IGST, ITC, utilize for IGST, output tax payable. Then you can utilize for CGST and SGST in any proportion. Then come to CGST credit. CGST credit you can utilize for CGST output and then IGST output. Okay. First, if you have any CGST liability, you have to utilize from CGST first, then utilize for IGST. Similarly, SGST input tax credit, we can utilize for SGST liability, then any kind of IGST liability. No cross utilization between CGST and SGST. Okay. Restriction of utilization of ITC. मतलब in some situations your ITC can be restricted when when the tax officer has reasons to believe that the credit of input tax available in the electronic credit ledger has been fraudulently availed. When you have taken the input tax through fraudulent methods, then he can restrict your credit. Okay. How we will restrict? By saying that he has to get a restriction from the commissioner on utilization of the ITC for claiming credit. So आपके जो ITC में credit ledger है आप उसको use नहीं कर सकते हो when the commissioner finds that you have taken the credit fraudulently. Then the credit of input tax has been availed on the strength of a tax invoice or valid document issued by a non-existent supplier. Documents तो है लेकिन issue करने वाला नहीं है, वो आपको issue करके भाग गया है. In that case, your credit can be blocked. Or when you have received the goods, you have received the credit without receiving the goods. First तो आपको invoice मिला है और देने वाला भाग गया है. Second is when you have not received the goods, but आपको सिर्फ document मिला है, तब भी आपका credit block हो सकता है. Restriction can be imposed for a period of 1 year. तो आपका blockage कब तक हो सकता है? 1 साल तक blockage हो सकता है, उसके बाद वो खोल देगा. ठीक है? That is 86A. Now 86B says, 86B बोलता है your ITC you cannot utilize fully for paying your output tax. आपका आउटपुट टैक्स 1 लाख रुपए है, आप पूरा क्रेडिट यूज नहीं कर सकते हो. क्यों? क्योंकि you are not fulfilling certain conditions. What is that? The rule is applicable to registered person having taxable value of supply in a month which is more than 50 lakhs. अगर आप 50 लाख के ज्यादा आउटपुट टैक्स देते हो, आप बड़े टैक्स पेयर हो, तो आपका इनपुट टैक्स रेस्ट्रिक्ट हो जाएगा. कितना रेस्ट्रिक्ट हो जाएगा? द रेस्ट्रिक्शन होगा कि आप आईटीसी को सिर्फ 99% यूज कर सकते हो, मतलब 1% तो आपको बैंक से पे करना ही पड़ेगा. ठीक है. So you have to utilize 99% of your credit and only 1% can be has to be paid through बैंक अकाउंट. आप पूरा यूटिलाइज करोगे आईटीसी से और एक भी पर्सन नहीं पे करोगे तो फिर ट्रैक नहीं हो पाएगा. दैट्स वे दिस रेस्ट्रिक्शन इज एज सिंपल एज 1%, क्योंकि देयर हैज टू बी अ ट्रैकिंग ऑफ योर बैंक अकाउंट. So 86B says that up to 99% credit will be available, 1% will be blocked. लेकिन ये भी उठ जाएगा when there are exceptions. If the person mentioned have paid more than 1 lakh rupees income tax, अगर आप 1 लाख से ज्यादा इनकम टैक्स पे करते हो, मतलब यू आर अ जेन्यून टैक्स पेयर, आपको ये ब्लॉकेज अप्लाई नहीं होगा. Who? The registered person, if he's a proprietor, Karta or managing director, अगर it's a company, or any of the partners in any other cases. तो अगर मेन बिजनेस का प्रोप्राइटर है, पार्टनर्स है, डायरेक्टर्स है, अगर वो टैक्सेस 1 लाख से ज्यादा भरते हैं तब ये ब्लॉकेज अप्लाई नहीं होगा. देन इफ द रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन अंडर कंसर्न हैज रिसीव्ड अ रिफंड, अगर आपको कभी भी रिफंड मिला है गवर्नमेंट से, देन ऑल्सो इट इज फाइन. Then, if the registered person has discharged his liability towards output tax by electronic cash ledger for an amount in excess of 1%, अगर आपने more than 1% टैक्स में पे कर दिया तो फिर वो अप्लाई होगा ही नहीं. Then if the registered person is any of the government, because government department, public sector को आप टच नहीं कर सकते हो, इनको भी वो कंडीशन अप्लाई नहीं होता है. Then the commissioner and officer authorized by him may remove the such restriction after such verification. First तो restriction डालेंगे, फिर अगर वो वेरीफाई करके बताते कि प्रूव करते हैं कि यू आर अ जेन्युइन पर्सन, देन द रेस्ट्रिक्शन विल बी रिमूव. ओके. एनी डाउट्स टिल नाउ? Yeah, just hide the answer 1 minute. Okay, let's go to the questions. ABC has purchased 10 computers for its office for 5,90,000. मतलब including GST of 90,000. 5 lakh rupees value है और 90,000 rupees GST है. On 8th August 2018. Out of the 10 computers, 2 computers have been put to use and kept for a new branch which is going to be opened in the next 6 months. Okay, whether ABC Limited is eligible to take full ITC of 90,000 for all computers in the month of August. Answer is yes, they can claim on full 10, even though the 2 computers which have been put to use and kept for a new branch, still they can claim because even though they have not put to use as on date, but they are intended to be used, correct? So they can claim the credit on full 10 laptops because all have been sent. Next question. Mr. Manish is a chartered accountant whose turnover exceeds 20 lakhs on 10th August 2018, and he becomes liable to get registered under GST. He applies for registration on 25th August and gets registration certificate on 28th August. Now, Mr. Manish purchases one laptop of 47,200 on 16th August. Whether Manish is eligible to take ITC of 7,200. Free samples are supplied, ITC is available. हाँ Nishtala, if you are supplying free samples and you're paying tax on them, then ITC is available. Okay, yes, everybody is saying yes, he can claim it. Let us see what is the answer. The answer is he gets REG6, that is the registration certificate. Okay, the certificate name, the form for certificate is REG06. He gets this registration certificate on 28th August, but effective date of registration shall be 10th. Why it will be 10th? Because he's applied on time and he shall be deemed to be registered from 10th. Hence, the inward supply, what has happened on the 16th August, even though he gets on and the 28th, it will be effective from the 10th, so he can claim the credit because once he purchases on that day, he should be registered. In this case, he was registered on 10th and he gets the inward supply on 16th, so credit is available. No ITC under 15,000. Swaroop, there's no such restriction. Okay. So even though any amount of ITC, even if 1 rupee is there, he can claim it. No restriction that he cannot claim below 50,000 rupees. I will take some MCQs. When is ITC available if goods are received in lots? So very simple questions on the ITC. Generally, what happens is we take around 2 sessions for ITC, but we are just covering one, and we are happy that we are able to cover major portions. So we'll have some time after the MCQs also. If you are interested, you could ask the relevant portions or relevant topics in ITC which you have doubts, we can deliberate that. Correct. First one, what is the answer? Correct. Last lot. Payment for the invoices is to be made within dash days from the date of issue of invoice to claim the credit. Somebody is saying B. हाँ निष्ठाला, जो पोर्शंस आपको समझ में नहीं है आप पूछ सकते हो, बिकॉज वी विल हैव सम टाइम. मेजर हमने कवर कर दिया. आप स्टडी मटेरियल गो थ्रू कर सकते हो. अगर स्टडी मटेरियल में आपको कुछ डाउट है तो आप बता दीजिए, वी कैन कवर दैट पार्ट. Correct. Everybody is given a correct answer. The answer is D, 180 days. Correct. Third one, prescribed limit for making payment does not apply in the following situation. मतलब जो ये 180 डेज का रेस्ट्रिक्शन है, प्रिस्क्राइब लिमिट मतलब वही लिमिट है फॉर मेकिंग पेमेंट्स आईटीसी के लिए. पेमेंट हैज टू बी मेड विद इन 180 days. नाउ इफ in which of these conditions that 180 days does not apply? Okay, what is the answer for third one? Letting very few answers. Did you understand the question? So definitely under reverse charge, there is no time limit applicable. Deemed supplies without consideration. What is this concept? This is the concept of Schedule 1, wherein under Schedule 1, even if there is no consideration, okay, no consideration, no supply, but Schedule 1 gives an exception saying that जब भी आपका consideration नहीं हो तब भी आपको supply माना जाएगा, which means that payment तो करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. करेक्ट. तो फिर टू में भी 180 डेज का एप्लीकेबिलिटी नहीं होगा. थर्ड, when additions is made to the value of supply on account of supplier's liability in relation to the supplier being incurred by the recipient, मतलब recipient has already paid and that has to be included in the supplier's transaction, so recipient will not pay that again. Means all of the above is the correct answer, because in all of these transactions you do not have to pay to the other person. RCM mein to you have to pay, but tax you have to pay it by your own. Correct? So all of the above is the correct answer. In all of these cases, all the three situations, 180 days limit doesn't apply. Okay. A taxable person can be entitled to full ITC in respect of input services, and capital goods exclusively used for. This is a tricky question. Where are everybody gone? Here are the answer for the fourth question. Taxable supply. Okay, somebody is saying only taxable supply. We had discussed no. So taxable supply and zero rated supply, on both you will get the credit. So the answer is D, both B and C. On both of this, you will get the credit. So correct answer is this. Just if you mark C, it means zero rated supply you're not considering, which becomes incorrect. Correct? That's why it is both B and C. Correct, Gulshan. Correct, Tanu, Nishtana, and Swaroop, and Pooja. First one, in which order CGST, ITC can be utilized? Okay, all the options for 5, A, B, C, D, can't be, no? Why is it so very confusing? CGST, SGST, and IGST. Firstly, this cannot be correct because CGST you cannot utilize against SGST. Correct? CGST, then IGST, then SGST. This is also not correct because CGST you cannot utilize for SGST. Now, within this two, why there is still a confusion? Wow, many people have opted for this CGST, IGST, then SGST. This is not at all possible because you cannot utilize CGST towards SGST. Correct. Option C is correct. Utilize CGST against CGST first and then with IGST. You cannot utilize CGST with IGST, then CGST. So this is also not correct. Okay. Sixth one. What are the taxes to be levied on import of goods? Only IGST. My God. No. Answer is C. Because when you import, you will pay basic customs duty also. Customs duty is not gone yet. So the correct answer is C, basic customs duty and IGST. Okay. Seventh one, in which order IGST ITC will be utilized? Only one correct answer. Come on, think over this. Everybody, okay. Few have given correct answer. Gulshan Kumar, Swaroop, yeah, and Nishtala has given correct answer. Even Tanu Vishwakarma, yes. 7D is the correct answer because IGST you can utilize for IGST, then SGST, then CGST possible. Then IGST, then CGST and SGST, then IGST, CGST and SGST in any proportion. Or so it means all the three are possible. So correct answer is 7D. Next, registered person claims depreciation on the tax component of the cost of machinery and the provisions of the income tax. The input tax credit on the said tax component will be what? Finish the sentence. Correct answer is 8A. Fully not allowed. The correct answer is B because he has claimed depreciation on the tax component also. So the input tax credit on the said tax component is not allowed because he's claiming depreciation on the cost component also, on the tax component. So ITC on the said tax component is fully not allowed. You can do one thing, right? You can claim ITC or you can claim depreciation. Now he is claimed depreciation, so ITC cannot be claimed. Ninth one, based on which of the following documents input tax credit shall be availed by a registered person, including a input service distributor? Ninth D, both A and B, correct. You can claim credit on invoice and bill of entry. Credit note, you cannot claim the credit. On a credit note, you cannot claim the input tax credit. You have to reverse the credit. So it is only A and B. Option is D. 10th question. ITC not be available in case of motor vehicle for transportation of persons having approved seating capacity of not more than 13 persons. ITC shall be available when they are used for making few taxable supplies. Identify the correct one. Yes, everybody is given a correct answer for ninth one. Now 10th one. This is just to make your concepts very stronger. We have discussed each of this. All the related MCQs will make your concept stronger. 10th one. D, correct. All of the above. So ITC on motor vehicles, if you are purchasing for further supply, transportation of passengers, imparting training, all these cases, you will get the credit. 11th one. The registered person must pay the supplier value of goods along with tax within 180 days. This condition is not applicable which of the following circumstances? Very simple questions. Yes, 11. Answer is D, both A and B. When supplies is under RCM and deemed supply, and addition made on account of supplier's liability incurred by the recipient. Last question for the day. Time limit for availing ITC. Okay, this September has to be mentioned as November here. Yeah. Not the return. First, it was linked to the return for the month of September. Now, it is not linked to the return of September. It just said 30th November. Correct. So the correct answer is B, not A. Be careful, Swarup. A says whichever is later, but it's not later. The correct answer is whichever is earlier. difference, right? So whichever is earlier, before that you have to file it. Be careful. Many people have said A. Okay. So any other question on input tax? I think we have covered most of it and we have tried to compact it instead of making it very voluminous. And your participation, so many responses. Yeah, Nishtala, ITC on invoices pertaining to financial year debit note issued in a financial can be claimed at any time till 30th November of the succeeding financial year. Yes. Here my doubt is debit note is date of issuance of invoice or debit note not invoice date. Why the date is relevant? No, debit note, date of invoice not relevant. Debit note is date of debit note itself. If debit note is issued this year, you can claim it by the 30th November of the next year. Why debit notes are issued? We discussed, no, when the value in the invoice is less, now you have to increase the value. You cannot alter the value or the tax you have mentioned wrongly, which is less. To increase the tax value or increase the tax amount, you issue a debit note. Okay, any other queries? Okay, so hope the ITC we have understood very clearly and thoroughly. Very nice. ITC on tax component depreciation came on capital goods. That FAQ, MCQ which we had, no, that so I'd given you that example. 1 lakh rupees laptop purchased, 18,000 is the GST. If you claim 1,18,000 as a capitalization in your books of account, then don't claim ITC. If you capitalize 1 lakh, then claim ITC of 18,000. Understood? Perfect. Okay, see you on the next class on Friday then. Thank you, Bhumika. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, everyone. Yes, sir.